Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë is a classic novel that follows the life of an orphan girl, Jane Eyre, who overcomes numerous hardships to find love, independence, and a sense of self-worth. The story begins with Jane's difficult childhood, raised by her cruel aunt, Mrs. Reed, who views her as a burden. Jane faces isolation and abuse not only from her aunt but also from her cousins, particularly John, who bullies her. Mrs. Reed eventually sends Jane to Lowood Institution, a charity school for orphan girls, where Jane endures strict discipline, inadequate food, and harsh conditions. At Lowood, Jane befriends a gentle and pious girl named Helen Burns, whose quiet resilience and faith influence Jane deeply. However, Helen dies of tuberculosis in Jane's arms, marking one of the many tragic losses Jane will experience in her life. Lowood's harsh conditions eventually improve under new management, and Jane remains there as a student and later as a teacher, gaining education and life experience. As a young woman, Jane leaves Lowood to seek a new life, finding work as a governess at Thornfield Hall, where she teaches a French girl named Adele. Jane meets her enigmatic employer, Mr. Edward Rochester, and despite their differences in social class and personality, a strong and passionate bond grows between them. Rochester is moody and mysterious, often testing Jane's patience, yet he respects her intellect and individuality, unlike anyone else in her life. Jane, in turn, is captivated by his complexity and depth. Their relationship begins to blossom, and Rochester eventually proposes to her, but their happiness is short-lived. On their wedding day, Jane learns a shocking secret. Rochester is already married to a woman named Bertha Mason, who is mentally ill and has been confined to Thornfield's attic for years. Devastated by this revelation and unable to compromise her principles, Jane decides to leave Rochester, despite her love for him. This choice underscores Jane's commitment to her own moral integrity and independence, highlighting her inner strength. After fleeing Thornfield, Jane endures poverty and near starvation until she is taken in by the Rivers family. She later learns that the Rivers siblings, St. John, Diana, and Mary, are actually her cousins, and that she has inherited a fortune from her uncle. Although Jane now has financial independence, she faces another moral test when St. John, a deeply religious man with aspirations to be a missionary, proposes to her. He asks her to marry him and accompany him to India as a missionary's wife, but Jane realizes that his proposal is devoid of love and passion. She refuses, knowing that to accept would mean sacrificing her own happiness and individuality. This decision affirms her desire for a life that values love and equality, rather than cold duty or obligation. Jane ultimately returns to Thornfield, driven by a mysterious intuition about Rochester. She discovers that the mansion has burned down in a fire set by Bertha, who perished in the flames. Rochester, attempting to save his wife, was injured and is now blind and physically impaired. Despite his weakened state, Jane is moved by her enduring love for him, recognizing that her feelings are stronger and more profound than ever. Their social and physical roles now reversed, Jane and Rochester marry, with Jane becoming his emotional and physical support. Their marriage is founded on mutual respect, love, and equality, fulfilling Jane's lifelong quest for a sense of belonging and self-worth. Jane Eyre is celebrated for its exploration of themes like social class, gender inequality, morality, and the struggle for personal autonomy. Through Jane's journey, Brontë delves into the emotional and psychological depths of a woman determined to overcome society's constraints and assert her own values. The novel's gothic elements, such as Thornfield's dark secrets and Jane's intense inner life, add layers of mystery and suspense, enriching the story's emotional resonance. Ultimately, Jane Eyre presents a powerful narrative about resilience, independence, and the courage to follow one's heart, even when it defies social expectations.